All right, welcome to The Explainer. Today, we're jumping into the uranium sector for a financial face-off between two of its absolute heavyweights. We're going to put their numbers side by side and see how they really truly stack up. So, in this corner, we've got Uranium Energy Corp. You know them by their ticker, UEC. And in the other corner, Energy Fuels Inc., trading under UUU. Now, they're both big names in the same game, but as you're about to see, their financial stories, well, they're surprisingly different. So that brings us to the big question, right? When you put all the data on the table, how do these two companies actually measure up? Which one looks stronger financially, and where do you start to see their different strategies play out? Okay, let's dive right in, and we're going to start with the most common way to measure a company's size. It's market cap. So real quick, before we hit the numbers, what is market cap? It's actually super simple. It's just the total market value of all of a company's shares put together. It's like the quickest snapshot you can get of how big the market thinks a company is. And wow, the data from our source here shows a massive difference. I mean, it's not even close. UEC is sitting at a market cap of around $2.2 billion. But then you look at energy fuels, UUU is more than double that at almost $4.6 billion. So the first big takeaway here is that by this main metric, Energy Fuels is a much, much larger company than Uranium Energy Corp. You're going to want to keep that size difference in your back pocket because it really sets the stage for everything else we're about to look at. Okay, so we know one is way bigger than the other, but who actually owns these companies? Let's take a quick look at the ownership structure and see who's holding all the shares. Checking out UEC first. You can see the huge majority of shares, we're talking over 97%, are what's called free float. That just means they're out on the open market, held by the public, by people like you and me. Only this tiny little slice, less than 3%, is closely held by insiders like the top executives. Now let's flip over to UUU, and, well, would you look at that? It is almost the exact same picture. A nearly identical split between shares out in the wild and shares held by the people running the show. So what does this tell us? Basically, ownership is not where you'll find a difference. When you look at how their shares are held, these two companies are pretty much mirror images of each other. All right, so market cap is a huge difference, but ownership is basically a tie. Let's peel back another layer now and run a quick financial health check with a few key numbers from our source material. First one up is the current ratio. Think of this as a company's short-term financial stress test. It just asks, does this company have enough stuff to pay its bills over the next year? And yeah, a higher number here is generally a good thing. And in this matchup, UEC actually comes out on top. The source data shows it has a higher current ratio. This suggests it's in a stronger position to cover its immediate bills, which in a capital-heavy industry like mining is a really big deal. Next up, we've got book value per share. Now, this is a pretty fascinating one. It's basically the company's net worth on paper. Like, if they sold off every single asset and paid back every single debt, what would be left over for each shareholder? And here, the tables turn completely. The data shows UUU has a higher book value per share. So, in theory, that means there's more tangible asset value. We're talking property, equipment, backing every single share of UUU stock. A lot of investors see that as a sign of stability. And our final health check metric is total cash per share. This one's super straightforward. How much cold hard cash does the company have stashed away in the bank for every single share out there? And once again, the advantage goes to UUU. It holds more cash for every share. And that's a powerful signal, right? It means liquidity. It gives a company the freedom to fund its operations or maybe pounce on a new opportunity without having to go out and borrow money. So we've got a really mixed picture here. UEC seems better at covering its immediate bills, but UUU is bigger and has more asset value and cash on hand. But this is where it gets really, really interesting. Let's take a look at how the source itself tried to summarize all this in a nice, neat pros and cons list. Okay, so let's check out the summary for UEC. The source lists two pros, higher current ratio, yep, we saw that, and higher market capitalization. It then lists a couple of cons. Now, just hold that first pro in your head for a second. And now for UUU. The source lists its higher cash and book value as pros, but hang on, it lists lower market cap as a con. Did you catch that? These two summaries seem to be saying the exact opposite thing about a really key point. Yeah, let's just zero in on that inconsistency.
The source's own summary flat out calls higher market capitalization a pro for UEC.
And this is just a flat-out contradiction. I mean, we saw the raw data ourselves just a few moments ago on that bar chart. UU's market cap was over double UEC's. This summary list directly conflicts with the source's own data. It just doesn't add up.
So, to cut through all the confusion, let's just look at the data. Here's the real tale of the tape. Energy Fuels UUUU is the clear winner on size, an underlying asset value, and cash reserves, period. Uranium Energy Corp, UEC, it has the edge in short-term financial health and, just by a hair, in insider ownership. It is a much more nuanced picture than that confusing summary ever suggested.
And that really brings us to our final thought. This journey wasn't just about UEC versus UUUU. It was kind of a masterclass in why you always have to check the fine print. And it leaves us with a critical question for anybody looking at financial data. When a source presents you with conflicting information, how do you dig deeper to find the real story?